Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles, it's game week, but we have to recap yesterday's open practice at Lincoln Financial Field first, and there was a lot to get into with the offense and defense. We'll get into all of it right here on your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to a Monday edition of the podcast, free and available Monday through Friday on all platforms and on YouTube as well. Hit us up on Twitter at LockedOnBirds, at GC24_football, and at DiBiase LOE. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline as you cover the season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And Gino, the games start on Friday, my man. The Eagles play the Jets August 12th, Friday at 7:30. It's game week. I just got back from Philly at 4 a.m. Saw the open practice yesterday. Got a recap on that and taking a look forward to the game. I'm juiced up, man. Football season's here, and I got the new hat for the rebranding, which I don't love, but I like ugly logos in sports too, so I had to get some merchandise.
Well, glad to see you made it back home safe.
Yes,
I've made that drive at night a couple times.
A raccoon didn't make it back, man, but I made it back.
Oh, goodness. But
he didn't have that Britton Covey. He didn't have that Britton Covey scoot.
No, he didn't. You saw quite an impressive showing from a lot of those new guys. The environment there. A.J. Brown tweeting about it. Zach Pascal tweeting about it. All the guys just loving that environment. And Jalen Hurts, it was his birthday. What a birthday present, man. I mean,
everybody sang him happy birthday. And yes, listeners, I sang it to him too. I didn't sit there and sulk. I clapped when he came out of the tunnel. I'm not the biggest hater on the planet.
Yeah, and he put on a good showing according to some clips yesterday. That pass to A.J. Brown and
play of the day.
Play of the day, he just drops it into a bucket over James Bradberry, and he has a safety over the top as well. And if you're looking to show teach tape on how to throw that route to the honey hole, you put it over him, you give it enough loft, and A.J. Brown being so good, just flashing his hand so late, it's impossible to defend somebody like that. And the new guys really, I believe they just have pumped that juice into the stadium and into the team. It just feels different than it has the past couple years.
And the biggest crowd reaction was when A.J. Brown came out, but I was so excited just to see how big Jordan Davis looks in person. You know, being up that close, normally never get that kind of view with a game, right? So it's general admission at the link. You can go as far up as possible. And I'm like, I got to see this unicorn. And yeah, you know, you could tell the new guys are really what energized this crowd. And the play of the day, though, really was that Jalen Hurts pass. And overall, my biggest takeaway of the day was, and we're going to get into it later, just how creative and how dynamic this defense looks on all three levels. We've talked about the potential on paper, but then when you see on the field what they're putting together, it's everything that you've laid out with the multiplicity of the system and the talent that we've laid out as well. But Jalen Hurts really did make the play of the game. I mean, that pass was like perfect. As you mentioned, the honey hole. I remember too when we were at the Buffalo game, the Wentz to Alshon pass to set up that one touchdown to take the lead. It's such an important play, and it's such a tough throw to make. And that's when you show real signs of improvement, when you can make that kind of, like, remember when Nick Foles in the NFC title threw it to Torrey Smith in that left corner of the end zone, like in between, Marcus Epps was crashing down on Brown. And then, as you mentioned, James Bradberry was on him. Bradberry, I thought, had him and Brown yesterday were battling, but Hurts put it low and only where Brown can get it. He makes a great diving play. Gino, I feel like it's clear the chemistry that is growing. I mean, these two, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, are best friends off the field. You can see the chemistry brewing on the field, right? And I think when Carson Wentz said Zach Ertz, I think sometimes we talked about a security blanket, not in a negative light, but we wanted, the way Ertz did things was it was kind of the same. Like, you didn't really get explosive run after the catch ability. You didn't get deep bombs. He kind of had his production in the same way, and not all production is the same. And we wanted to do damage in multiple ways. You didn't have those kind of weapons. So we saw a security blanket almost back then as like a weakness or a representation of what the offense didn't have. Whereas I think, honestly, though, having that kind of go-to player for Hurts right now, I mean, he's got three of those guys, but it feels like it's Brown right now. That's a huge positive, especially when it's A.J. Brown, who's a top 5, top 6 receiver that can do everything.
Well, when you trade a first-round pick plus and pay an individual $100 million and even paid him more than DK Metcalf is getting, you have to have him and get him into the offense, not by week 6, not by week 8, by week 1 of the preseason. That their connection should be ready to roll. And the fact that they are friends off the field, that they have that connection, that they hang out, now it's on the football field. Having that relationship with the player is fantastic to have because you can trust them. And he's trusted DeVonta Smith, and he's trusted Dallas Goedert.
Dude, those are the 3 most reliable top weapons in offense a 24-year-old quarterback can ask for. When it comes to dependability of 3 players, I mean, I know Brown had drop issues last year, but I think the security of all 3, and especially Brown, is huge for Hurts this year.
Just having somebody like Carson had with Zach, that is going to get to their spot. The timing's going to be there. It's not a person that you put the ball near them and they alligator arm it like Alshon. No, he has strong, big, not like Alshon, excuse me, like Nelson Aguilar. Sorry about that. No disrespect to Alshon, but a guy who's just going to go up and get it and battle against anybody. Well, you have 3 of those guys all doing it in different matters.
By the way, Quez can do it too.
He can, and he's done it in the past. He matched up in number 2 situations a lot. And now Jalen Hurts should be confident in himself if he wasn't already, because he has weapons. He has a coach. He has an offensive line. He has everything, man. The Formula 1 car equation. When you have a Red Bull car that right now is at the top of the world, you just need to have confidence and take that thing around the track. Well, look at this vehicle that you have with how good the offense is. And the defense, you said yesterday, was the star of the show.
For sure, man.
Just do your job on offense, and you're going to put up 25-plus points week in and week out, and that's where you have to be in the NFL. And with the weapons that they have, A.J. Brown can do basically everything. Run after the catch, big, physical, strong hands.
Oh, he made 2 plays, by the way, yesterday, too, along the sidelines. Bradberry all over him. Draped in coverage, just strong-handed, like draped all over him, brought the ball down for 2 third-down conversions. He's got that Alshon, like, strong, like, in traffic, you can still throw it to him.
That's exactly how we were describing Zach Ertz a couple of years ago, but he doesn't have that run after the catch ability. Like
Alshon, or by the way, I'm sorry, A.J. Brown has the most 50-yard receiving touchdowns, dude, since 2019. This is a do-it-all player.
Look at his yards after the catch number. Look at the film and situation.
What he does over the middle.
Yeah, over the middle against multiple defenders as well. And then you have DeVonta, who didn't even get to practice yesterday. They're going to keep that Ferrari in the garage until Sunday. They're going to keep that thing ready to go, and he's going to be ready to go week 1. But the thing about DeVonta is everything I just described about A.J. Brown, you were that guy last year. So now you have 2, 1A, 1B, which we have said in the past, that can go up, run clean routes, run in and out of their breaks with good athleticism, if not great athleticism, have strong hands, know how to attack the ball at the catch point. He should flourish, that being Jalen Hurts, in all of those areas that he was weak last year, because they've filled in the cracks with A.J. Brown. And now the rest of the guys can fill in those other areas, which A.J. Brown isn't great at.
And they all don't only fit one strength, Gino.
Right.
And that's, like when you had Alshon, Aguilar, and Ertz, that was a great trio, but it felt like each guy was really responsible for one main thing. Whereas, as you mentioned, Smith, Goedert, Brown, they really check all the boxes. And when you have players, multiple players that can win in every area, it does wonders. And look, this offense, overall, the defense has looked way better this summer. It's been somewhat average for times, and there's still a lot of my concerns that do remain. But at the same time, I feel like this offense especially will probably thrive in in-game situations. I even texted you last night. I'm like, man, there's a couple times where the defense got the point, but I feel like Miles Sanders in the open field is making TJ Edwards miss there. Or Jalen Hurts he broke Brandon Graham. I'm surprised he didn't re-tear his Achilles yesterday against the Saints-like ankle breaker. There was times where you're like, in a game, this offense would probably look a lot better. So it's a mixed bag. I'm really ready to see them on the field. I've seen enough improvements. I could even tell yesterday, really paying close attention to Jalen, that his mental processing he looks like he's moving a lot quicker, a lot more comfortable. There's less movement, even unnecessary movement in his mechanics. I'm just ready to see these guys in the field. I don't know if we're going to get that in the preseason on Friday against the Jets, against Cleveland next week a little bit, but overall, just can't wait to see this offense. But Gino, coming up next, we do have to get into the defense. We've talked again about the potential of this team on this side of the ball for months, and seeing it up close and personal, you can see the potential. So we'll get into it coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. But guys, first a shout out to our sponsor of the day, and it's Dave. Level with me here, Eagles fans. We've all been in a situation before at some point in our lives when we're a little tight on cash, and maybe you can only afford to put a few gallons of gas in your tank, or you got another save the date and you're wondering how you're going to afford that gift. That's where Dave can help. If you're living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to make ends meet, it can really be stressful when unexpected expenses do come up. Now Dave can help you get out of a pinch when you really need it. Hindsight is 20/20, and you can't change the past, but what if you could get a little help from future you? Maybe you'd ask to borrow a little cash. Now you can with Dave. It's a banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, or catch up on bills. Finally tackle those expenses that have been really stressing you out without any hangups. There's no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app and get the financial relief that they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and need some extra help, download the app today. It's a helping hand from future you. Download Dave. It's D-A-V-E in any app store. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Future you will thank you. All right, Eagles fans, welcome back into this Monday edition of Locked On Eagles, kicking off the first game week, Gino. We got the Jets on Friday, and what is this, like the first time in 15, 20 years the Jets aren't week 4 in the preseason? I'm kind of ready for a change.
A tradition comes to an end. One of the long-standing traditions of the Eagles offseason. Yeah. That final Thursday night game against the Jets where you just run the 3s, run the 4s into the ground. Well, we get to see maybe the first unit and second unit against the Jets, something we haven't seen outside of the regular season. So we're going to get live game action this week. And then they follow it up with 2 more games. But during those game weeks, they're going to be doing joint practices. So
which dare I say is more important, Gino?
Yeah, one of the cliches of football. We just want our guys to go out there and hit somebody in a different color. They're just ready to stop hitting their teammates. Yeah, that's what those practices are all about. And
you know what's funny, by the way, about that? There haven't been any fights, I feel like, with Eagles camp compared to around the league. I don't know. Yeah,
ever. No, they don't really get into those scuffles and joint practices.
Derek Barnett, but
yeah, I mean, it's always him. We know that. But they're going to get into situations now where we can continue to evaluate the roster and player personnel departments. These next 3 weeks are huge. You have multiple cut downs coming. You're going to see these rosters go from 90 to 53 within the course of the month. And the Eagles have a lot of important decisions to make, but I think they made a lot of those clear by the guys they brought in this offseason, Lou, via free agency and the draft, who's going to fill it on defense.
Gino, let me tell you, we've talked, and again, I like prioritizing the player. I think is the most important part of your success, right? I think scheme is super important. The general manager adding the right talent, but overall it's up to the players to go out there and execute. And what I did like about Jim Schwartz's defense back in the day, it did allow them to think less, pin their ears back and go get the quarterback, go cover the receivers, linebackers to chase in space. But, it was frustrating how poor they were when it comes to situational football, like 3rd and long. Their strategy felt like it was the same compared to 3rd and inches, and they weren't creative. They weren't blitzing when you needed to, when the 4-man rush was getting there. They weren't playing man coverage when their corners did better in man or zone, vice versa. I watched yesterday a defense that, and again, it's only on paper, it's only in practice, but how multiple they looked and how creative you talked a lot, and we saw it yesterday, 5-man fronts. And then sometimes you thought the 2 edge rushers are going, they drop back. You've got Haason Reddick stunting and going through the A gap or the B gap. He's lining up as a stand-up inside rusher. The packages they had, they were running dime. They were running, 3 stand-up linebackers, 5 defensive linemen. They were doing everything. And I really like it in the NFL nowadays with how good quarterbacks are and how explosive weapons are. You got to throw the kitchen sink at these guys. And the Eagles didn't do that last year. They were so vanilla against star quarterbacks, and they got crushed for it every week. If the defense I saw on the field yesterday is going to be out there on Sundays, all 3 levels look stacked on top of a creative scheme. It was exciting to watch that kind of talent. Brandon Graham was right, man. The other day he said he hasn't had these kind of corners before. It's not just the corners, man. It looks like TJ Edwards was flying around, Kyzir White. They look great.
Did I not tell y'all that odd fronts with multiple personnel?
It was fun, man.
Is way more exciting than just put your hand in the dirt,
exciting.
4 down linemen.
Your eyes don't know where to go. I'm like, who? You don't know
now
where
imagine a
quarterback.
Now imagine a quarterback, because in my mind, when I look at defense, I believe you have one main objective. Can you make the quarterback think?
Yeah.
Because if he knows what he's doing prior to the snap, Carson Wentz was really good at that when he was here. He would get the numbers. He knew which way to go, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're changing things up post-snap, which always would confuse Carson, that's going to confuse other quarterbacks as well. And when you're playing in the first round of the playoffs, Tom Brady, you can't just do 4 down front, same thing over and over again, because they're going to give what they take you. But if you can make a quarterback think for even a split second, that's where defenses win. And if you are multiple up front, you're multiple in coverage on the back end, you could present 6, 7, 8, 9 guys on the defensive line and present multiple looks at linebacker and make the quarterback an offensive line, especially in this league where the offensive line play isn't the best. Get those guys moving and having to pass off multiple rushers, like you said. If Haason Reddick lines up in the C gap, ends up stunning all around to the A gap, you're going to have to account for this guy. You have to figure out where he's going, and then somebody's going to stun off of him. It's probably going to be Jordan Davis, or it's going to be Fletcher Cox, or it's going to be Javon Hargrave. Just presenting multiple ideas, multiple fronts, multiple looks. If your playbook goes from 1/4 of an inch to 2 inches thick, it's going to make you work a little bit more in the offseason, get the scheme, get the calls down, know where you have to be. But come Sunday, that's going to put you at an advantage, because you don't just have to put your head down and try to overcome what the offense already knows.
And by the way, they still use that, and they were still running a lot of even fronts yesterday from what I noticed. They were using their system isn't there. We're an odd defense. It has an odd spine. Like the backbone of this defense is going to be an odd front, right? But they're everything. Don't put this. We literally did a show saying, do not put this defense in a box. And you have noticed that for sure. I'm not somebody that I don't like tunnel vision when it comes to how to defend a quarterback. I know most of the time when you're playing Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have 2 deep and you want to make sure you prevent the big plays because that's what's going to crush you. But I just don't like saying we're always going to give him one thing or we're always going to just keep blitzing. Those guys are so good anyway that you have to just throw everything at them. And I don't like giving a quarterback something. I know a lot of defenses do that and some situations do allow that, but I like what I saw yesterday, man. I'm encouraged. We have to see it in the game, because last year, a lot of those moments I questioned Gannon's philosophy, but he's got the personnel now. I mean, you saw it even just in one-on-ones. Jordan Davis bull rushing Cam Jurgens yesterday was fun to watch.
Looking at what we had last year in terms of personnel to this year, you have to look and say he was hamstrung. He didn't have the guys, he didn't have the horses that he wanted to put in those positions to open up his playbook to the fullest potential. Looking at it now, Lou, I can't even imagine what that guy's mind is going into that defensive playbook and everything he has to remember as the play caller, and then what all of the players have to remember as well. Because come Sunday, like you said, Lou, they're not just going to be even. They're not just going to be odd. They're going to be multiple. And we talk about the multiplicity on offense and how important that is to run multiple looks, 11, 12, 21, so on and so forth. Well, you have to combat that with a defense that can do similar things. Because there's going to be situations, like you said, Luke, where you're playing a team that has 3 wide receivers that are exceptionally good. Let's say you go and play Arizona, who's going to be without DeAndre Hopkins, right? Well, they have Ertz and Trey McBride. They could run a ton of 2 tight end looks. Well, you have to be multiple defending that. The NFL isn't a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, the offense isn't a one-trick pony, so a defense can't be either.
It's like going into lids and trying to find your hat size. You have to try multiple hats. You have to see what works, but you also have to be open to continuing to put more looks into that defense, which I don't believe what you saw yesterday, Lou, is even a drop in the hat of what this defense is going to have at their disposal. They don't want to give too many looks to the public. They're going to keep that thing at their chest for sure.
All right, Gino, coming up next, we'll wrap up the show, getting into some players' camp bodies that are fighting for a roster spot that we've liked so far in camp, but the preseason's really going to do wonders, especially with shortened practices, with the Jets starting on Friday. Who are some guys we're going to keep a close eye on this week, especially? That's coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
And if you think you know who's going to be a part of the Eagles roster, let's say you could put a little wager on that. Say a player is going to make the 53. Well, there's one place that is our sponsor of the entire network, the official sponsor of the Locked On Eagles podcast, BetOnline.net, the official sports book for everybody here at the Locked On Podcast Network. It's the fastest and easiest way to take your little mobile device. You go to BetOnline.net, you put in some cash, and then you can bet on anything that you want. Right now, all sports are coming back. On Sundays, you're going to be able to watch Premier League soccer in the morning, Formula One in the morning. Then you're going to see football later on. And sooner or later, NHL's coming back. NBA's coming back. The MLB is in their dog days right now. You got UFC fights every weekend. You got boxing. And you can bet on every single sport you can imagine. Bet on props, bet on futures, bet on in-game live action, all at betonline.net. I've been gambling and betting on sports for way too long now. I think I've been doing it half my life almost. And I have been with betonline.net longer than any sportsbook that I've had. Because one, you can bet on anything. I spend way too much time on there. And two, it's easy and seamless. You don't get overwhelmed. It's not like walking into casinos, seeing all the flashing lights. You don't know what's going on. They make it easy and simple for you. We wouldn't support it here at the Locked On Podcast Network if we didn't believe in it. BetOnline.net is where the game starts.
All right, Eagles fans, we're wrapping up this Monday edition of Locked On Eagles. Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Gino, we had the open practice yesterday at the Link. We've got the first game against the Jets on Friday at 7:30, and I think there have been some standouts so far at camp, but, you know, I am excited, especially with, and I totally agree with Nick Sirianni's approach to these shortened practices. Doug Peterson's taken a play out of that playbook too in Jacksonville after he learned what soft tissue injuries can do with summer overusage. So I agree with the shortened practices, but I think it does hamstring, you know, later round picks, undrafted guys trying to fight for a roster spot. So I think these few preseason games they have and the live action against Cleveland next week in practice is even more important. And I think there are some guys to watch. Is there somebody you're really excited to see like in live game action that you've been hearing about at camp?
I'd say Britton Covey and Devin Allen. I think both of those guys, I would believe Britton is doing better in camp right now than Devin is. But when you get into those environments and your basis is speed and athleticism, you really find out if you can play in the NFL rather quickly. Yeah. Because you're not going to be able to beat everybody like you were in college. And although Devin Allen is a hurdler, there's a thing that they call it's play speed. It's being able to put the pads on and run at full speed. And knowing what the Eagles have at wide receiver, you would say that if Jalen Reagor is going to lose his seat, it's going to be to either one of those individuals. And you tweeted it out yesterday, just seeing how much smoother Covey is handling punts than anybody. I would say he's better than anybody, and I didn't even get to see him live. Just his experience overall. This Eagles team needs a true returner in the worst of ways. And man, a 5'8" kid wearing the number 41 who weighs under 200 pounds, that's just bet against that guy. That guy's going to be out of camp by week 1. No, this kid can truly play, and I'm glad you got to see him yesterday. Yeah. He ripped my Ducks up 2 times this year.
Yeah, that's right, the Utah kid. He was getting some reps with the first team. DeVonta Smith was out. Quez Watkins was limited. You know, he did play a lot in the first team, but he was playing on the outside of the Z because DeVonta Smith was injured. So you had Covey inside at times. Super explosive get off. short area quickness. I mean, the burst is very noticeable. And yeah, Gino, I even meant too, like his punt return, just naturally the way he just catches a punt. Like you could just see how much more smooth, and the stiffness in Reagor at times, and Greg Ward, he does just look more natural, like he's been doing it, and he broke records at Utah in this area for a reason. So I totally agree with Covey. I'm interested to see Jason Huntley for the same reason, man, is the explosiveness to see that on the field in live game action. He ripped off yesterday like a 30-yard run. It feels like Huntley the last few years always is a great practice player. And, you know, him versus Covey in the return battle is going to be super interesting because, as you mentioned, that's such an important area the Eagles need to improve upon. And not to mention, I don't know if they're going to bring back Jordan Howard this year. So there's a fourth running back spot I believe is going to be open. And I think Huntley would be the favorite right now. So, you know, he's got to continue to build off that. And again, you don't have a power back, but you have a bunch of versatile players, and I count versatility as you're a running back, but also you're a returner. So I think Huntley is also as important in that area.
I don't think the Eagles would add a running back from outside the building. I know that they love Jason Huntley for that returner position. That's why they brought him in here a couple years ago. They loved his explosiveness. They loved his ability to drop back and return. And if you look at his numbers, he's averaged more in the kick return game. I believe he's at 28 yards per return in the kick return game over the entire landscape of the Eagles. Nobody's even close to that number. So you have to give him as many opportunities, and that's where the preseason is going to come. I mean, late in these second and third games, when they're in the third and fourth quarter and the offense of the other team has their 3s and 4s in there's going to be a lot of punt situations. There's going to be a lot of times teams are going 3 and out. Get those guys situational ball and find something else. You can't tell if Michael Clay steps into his press conference week 1 and says that Jalen Reagor or Greg Ward is his punt returner or kick returner. To me,
I love your passion for special teams.
It's insanity, man. It's insanity because you've been at the bottom of the league. The guys that you have shown that they can't do it. Jalen Reagor went backwards more often than he went forwards last year. Greg Ward presented you next to nothing. I remember there was one return in the Tampa game where he caught it, and he had about 5 yards of space between him and the guy in front of him. And I said, he's not going to gain a yard here. And he didn't. He got tackled exactly where he caught the ball. And to see Jason Huntley in the minimal amount of production that he does have, he's had big moments. You have to give him more opportunities. You have to give younger guys opportunities because those are the guys that can play multiple phases. Is Jalen Reagor going to potentially be like a gunner for you on your punt unit? I don't believe so.
I don't want him tackling.
Is Greg Ward going to do the same thing? No. I mean, you have to find other options. You can't just put even JJ, a guy like JJ Arcega-Whiteside, he was a special teams ace for this team. You don't keep him on the team because he can do that well. Guys have to make the team because they can do multiple things well. Much like we were talking about on offense, much like we were talking about on defense. How are you multiple? Well, you have guys that can do multiple things, multiple looks. Look at who they had playing left tackle yesterday, Lou, because 3 of their left tackles were out. Jordan Mailata, Andre Dillard had concussions. Raven Clark was out as well. Coyote Awosika, the undrafted free agent right guard out of Buffalo, was playing left tackle for them. And what does that say? That they want players that are versatile. Look at these young guys and look at their versatility, because if they're going to make the roster, that's how it's going to come. And look at the veterans that don't have that element, that do have just one part to their game. That's going to be the camp battles we look at. Those guys that third, fourth years who have maybe 1 or 2 good skill sets versus that raw, untapped potential, maybe some of these young undrafted guys. That's what I'm looking forward to these next couple weeks, Lou.
And we've got Thursday. We'll do a preview podcast. We'll have other players to watch as well. We have our 53-man preseason 53-man roster projections this week. We've got 4 more show for you guys on all podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles to hear Gino and I on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit us up on Twitter at LockedOnBirds, at DiBiase LOE, and at GC24_football. We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen now is the Locked On NFL podcast. All the news across the league in under 30 minutes. For my co-host, Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching and listening. And let's go, Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.